happy Monday. Used to be called Big Monday during college basketball season, and unfortunately, we don't have the greatest slate, but we do have one of my favorite guys. Yeah, Brian Power. He's going to join us today on the show. He even got a haircut for us. I'm sure Joey Ranieri, our producer, appreciated that one. And I promised you guys on Twitter we were not going to be talking about soccer. Thank God, because we've got a nice NBA slate tonight, a couple college basketball games I want to touch on, but I want you guys to jump in the comment section, whether you are on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, whether you are on YouTube Shorts. That is where we're streaming from tonight on Game Time Picks, because we got games kicking off here. God, I wish it was football season, Brian Power. Tipping off here in about 28 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's not the best slate. You're right. First of all, no one's ever going to make me the czar of college basketball. They won't make Adam Trigger the czar of college basketball either. You see his name down on the screen. Maybe they should. But look, Kelly, with the schedule, I think you would agree. I think most of our listeners would agree that by day, it's so imbalanced. Monday isn't good enough. Friday isn't good enough. Sunday, there should be more games. Saturday, it's overwhelming. Tuesday is great. Wednesday is great. And Thursday, there's a lot of teams you don't play. So, yeah, somebody, whoever is in charge of college basketball scheduling needs to sort of rearrange and make it more balanced on a daily basis.
Listen, I had really enjoyed Saturday. Really probably should have went 7-2, 8-1. Ended up with 6-3. Nothing to ever complain about, but a couple of dogs that went to overtime after missing free throws to win the game outright. Those kind of games can be painful. Mark Zeno in the comment section right now saying he is the czar. Mark Zeno is going to be filling in for me tomorrow night because I have a date with my girlfriend Alex. We have a wine tasting, Brian Power, that I cannot wait to look forward to. This is what I do during the non-football season. I go do feminist things that social media would never guess. All right, where did BP get his haircut? Okay, Mark Zeno. Seriously though, drop some questions in if you want to hear any games. With all the jokes aside, Brian Power, one game that I played tonight, we're going to touch on really quickly. Baylor TCU. It's the only thing I gave out on Pickett Sports. I played it last night. Line hasn't moved. 2.5 still on the Wagertalk odds screen. Just one of those regular system plays that you guys all know about. By this point, it's self-explanatory. Unranked home favorite versus the ranked team. And Baylor, boy, oh boy, they were one of these overtime dogs that I just complained about. They were down 17 at half. They looked absolutely terrible. Came roaring back in the second half versus Houston. Missed some free throws down the stretch. Missed some free throws in overtime. And that was all she wrote. Brian Power, give me one game that you really liked tonight but did not make your card.
Let's start with the very first game, 6:30 tip-off. I talked about this game a little bit on both Wager Talk today and the college basketball tip-off show with my good friend Joe Ranieri. And that is Drexel and Delaware. These are two teams, Kelly, that met early in the season. Drexel won big. But since that time, they have been trending in very different directions. Drexel has covered just once in their last 9 games, as a matter of fact, whereas Delaware, they've won 6 of 9 straight up. Delaware's a short home favorite. I like them to get revenge. Drexel, they were missing their lead guard last game against Hofstra. They only averaged 0.88 points per possession. That is very inefficient. And I just think Delaware, it all lines up for them. The Blue Hens, of course, the alma mater of both Rich Gannon and Joe Flacco, to get revenge.
I was going to say Joe Flacco is the only one I know of.
Yes.
Joe Flacco. Oh boy, are you a Browns fan, Brian? Or are you a Bengals fan?
I am a fan of absolutely no team whatsoever in any sport, but they tell me I'm supposed to like the Cleveland Browns.
Even as a little kid, like I grew up as a Broncos fan.
So as a little kid, my dad's not originally from Cleveland, but he became a big Browns fan when he moved here. And the Browns were actually good when I was a little kid. They of course, ended in heartbreak with the drive and the fumble and whatnot. But I remember watching Monday Night Football once, and it was the game. If you're my age, you remember this game. Bo Jackson ran wild against the Seattle Seahawks. And I was like, Dad, the Browns should get Bo Jackson. And he's like, well, it doesn't really work like that. I'm like, well, screw the Browns. I like Bo Jackson and I like the LA Raiders. So I liked them growing up. And then he lied to OJ Simpson on the sideline and said he was going to play in the AFC Championship game and never played another down again in his life, at least of football.
Oh, yeah. I love that. All right. Well, we're going to keep going down the Wager Talk odds screen. I already touched on Baylor TCU. We just hit on Drexel, Delaware. If you guys do have a question for us in the NBA, Brian covers the NBA as well, and I'll do my best as somebody who promised after the All-Star break I was going to start working on it. Miami Hurricanes take on number 10 North Carolina. This one is steep, Brian. 14 on the Wager Talk odds screen, 154 and a half. North Carolina's kind of been one of those teams this year. Great defense, fast, up-paced tempo. We know that they can defend the three ball well, but then they faltered a couple of times on the road at Syracuse, at Georgia Tech, and they were sizable favorites there. The home loss to Clemson a couple weeks ago was a little wonky as well. Since then, really ugly low-scoring game against Virginia. Nice beatdown of Virginia Tech. Now they face a Miami team that when Trig and I watched them live in November, and they beat my Kansas State Wildcats because Nigel Pack could not miss a three-pointer. Like, the guy was on fire. I thought this team was going to be headed back to the Sweet 16, Elite 8 once again. Then they got into ACC play, and it has been bad, like real bad. Now they've dropped 6 straight. Do they get up because it's North Carolina tonight?
Look, I'm going to say the words that no one really wants to hear. I think you got to pass on this game, quite frankly. I tried with Miami last week, Kelly, against Duke at home. I thought if they were going to show a pulse, that was the spot. And to call Miami a corpse right now would be an insult to corpses because, I mean, they follow that up with an outright loss to Georgia Tech as a 9-point favorite. My word. I mean, you mentioned the 6 straight losses. They failed to cover 4 in a row. Now, North Carolina was a team, I think it was a month or so ago. It might have been on this show. It might have just been in our group text, Kelly, that I said, North Carolina's got to be approaching the peak of its value, and they have given a little bit back. I mean, they're only 4-3 straight up their last 7 games, 2-3 ATS their last 5. They did cover against Virginia Tech. They did cover again at Virginia. Virginia is a team that, my goodness, they're trending in the wrong direction as well. But what gives me pause here, so North Carolina is obviously better than Miami. We all know that. But what gives me pause is this number is steep. You use that word, and I'm going to reiterate it. When these teams played not that long ago, what was it? Just 3 Saturdays ago, I think it was, in Coral Gables, North Carolina closed -4, and Miami took sharp money. Miami only lost that game by 3. I know it took some late game tomfoolery, if you will, and North Carolina did not shoot particularly well on the road. But going from 4 to 14, I know Miami's been bad, but that seems like a real leap of faith. They're taxing you if you like the Tar Heels and want to fade Miami here. I'd play the over, but that total's pretty high as well. And Miami on the road has been an under team over the last several seasons.
All right, let's talk about my Kansas State Wildcats taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers, who gave Iowa State a scare there on Saturday. Eventually, the Cyclones got away with it, but boy, did it look ugly early. And this is a 9-18 Mountaineers team, Brian Power, that nobody wants to back. But on the flip side, I'm not sure I could lay 9.5, 10 right now on the Wager Talk odds screen with the K-State Wildcats. They have covered 4 of their last 5, albeit some ugly ones, right? Ugly loss at Texas. Covered, they actually just won outright versus BYU. They covered at BYU as well, but ugly losses at home to TCU. Ugly losses at home to Oklahoma. I don't know if I trust this team. I know Jerome Tang had been quoted saying, hey, if we win 4 of our last 5, I think we can get in to the big dance. This is a must win tonight. So is Saturday versus Cincinnati, and then maybe split one versus Kansas and Iowa State. They can squeak in. This team cannot hit a 3-point shot to save their lives. Why on earth would anybody want to lay 9.5 with my alma mater?
Well, look, last Monday, I was on Wage Talk Today. You said you were a little scared about backing them with the points against Texas. They did stay within the number. It got a little hairy at the end with Kansas State. But I'm with you, Kelly. Kansas State is a team that I'll look to back as a dog. But laying this many, no siree. They were a 9-point favorite January 20th against Oklahoma State. I bring that up because Oklahoma State and West Virginia are 2 teams that I feel, I think everybody feels are the bottom 2 in the Big 12 this year. Should be power rated similarly. Kansas State did not cover the spread in that game. They only won by 4. Now, on the flip side, West Virginia, they were a very nice win for me in Morgantown last week against UCF. But this game isn't in Morgantown, which means you can't back the Nears. They're 0-11 on the road. They have not won a single time outside Morgantown, a great college town. But you can't back West Virginia on the road. You can't back Kansas State as this large of a favorite. Maybe you look at an under. I don't know. The last 6 times these teams have met, they've all gone over. I think maybe this time it's a little bit different, a little lower scoring than the odds makers expected.
Yeah, I can kind of see the under too as well. Again, K-State as an underdog, a lot different than K-State as a favorite. I think if I wanted to back the Wildcats, I would look at a first half play with this team, thinking maybe they're going to come out strong. Coaches got them really motivated. And again, they just got moved up in the bracketology now as the next 4 out. They got to win this game, but that doesn't mean that they're going to cover. Let's move on to the last game here for tonight. I think this is CT's favorite team, UNC Wilmington, the Fighting Camels of Campbell. They are 8.5-point favorites on the road, 143.5. BP, as I told CT on Thursday when we talked about this team, I can't name a single player on UNC Wilmington, so you have to talk about this one.
Well, UNC Wilmington's a good team in the revamped CAA. It's not even called the Colonial anymore. It is called the Coastal. You kind of need By the way, speaking of conference realignment, I would like to personally welcome UMass as the newest member of the Mid-American Conference as of an hour ago. If you're out there in Amherst and want to know the places to go in Athens, Ohio, when you visit OU, I will be happy to provide that information.
I'll let Frank Martin know that he needs to hit you up when he comes to town. Yes. One of my favorite all-time ever basketball coaches. Great guy. Glad to see some success from him there in like you said, Amherst.
Yes. I know Trigg likes Campbell in this matchup. He said he was hitting back at the market. It does seem a lot. Look, it doesn't matter if you're ranked, unranked. The story of college basketball, one of the stories, Kelly, is in an inability of most teams to win on the road. I would never, ever, and I think you and I are on the same page traditionally like this, want to lay this many points on the road. So, Campbell, they've lost 3 straight. You got to figure they're up for this game. It's their second to last home game of the year. So it would be Fighting Camels or pass for me in this Monday game.
Camels. I kind of want to just bet them just so I can tweet out a camel emoji when they cover. I may have to text Trig about that one. We'll see. That one does not tip off until... Oh, we've got time. 8:30 Eastern. I got a couple hours to make a degenerate decision there, if you will, because that's exactly what that type of play would be a total degenerate move. Because where are you going to watch that? You gotta watch it on the streaming app somewhere. Is it on ESPN Plus or some godforsaken?
I'm sure it'll be on ESPN Plus. Yes, I'm sure it will be.
Can't wait to not have a subscription there.
Yeah. I have a game that you want to talk about the degenerate special. I've got to talk about this. Okay, it's on the added board. Can we hit this?
Yeah,
Mississippi Valley State, Kelly. They are 0-27. That is not good. They are the only winless team in all of them. Oh, and we got a question for it. I didn't even see this. I just sensed it. I swear I wasn't looking at the comment section. This is great.
No, you really weren't. That's why it's so funny, because I was going to tee you up for this, and you just ran away with it. And I was like, okay.
I'll tell you what, after a year and a half, my God, I might be a broadcast professional after all. Anyway, Mississippi Valley State is 0-27. That is horrific. I talked about this on the college basketball tip-off show at the end, though. This is their last home game. Kelly, if they're going to win a game this year, it's got to be tonight, right? And yes, if you don't mind losing, okay, this is not a client play. I would like to make that very clear. If you would like to make a small wager on Mississippi Valley State on the money line, they're plus 400. I would not be against that play whatsoever. This is a dreadful basketball team, obviously. There's really no justification looking at the metrics. I think they're last in the country offensive efficiency, 3rd worst defensive efficiency. But Prairie View A&M, Kelly, is not a team you're going to find with a minus 9.5 next to its name very often. Prairie View A&M is 8-23 ATS as a favorite the last 3 years, 2-5 ATS as a favorite this year. So if you want to have some fun on a Monday night, it's a limited card, like you said. I would take a look. Mississippi Valley State on the money line. Why
plus
not?
Plus 345 here in the great state of Florida.
Now? Oh, wow.
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 All right.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right, Brian Power. I'll throw a couple of shekels on there just for fun. Let's see what happens. There's a few other games on the extra board before we get to the NBA. Is there anything else you'd like to hit?
No, I think that was the one I definitely wanted to hit in my, I don't know. I could just, telepathy. I just
You just
guessed that the
sensed
people
it.
wanted to talk about it. Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's just go straight in. We only have 4 NBA games tonight, so we're just going to hit all 4 rapid fire. We got 14 minutes left. If you guys have a specific question regarding NBA or college basketball handicapping, drop it in any one of your prospective chats and we will try to get it answered. BP, do you do player props?
More so in the playoffs. I mean, right now,
Okay.
I mean, look, college is number one, then it's NBA number two. If there's something, if it's a national TV game and I'm locked into it, sure, but very, very few during the regular season. I think I might be like 3-1 with player props in the regular season, so it's obviously pretty limited. But I'll take 3-1. Obviously, that means I made money.
All right. There you go. A little reverse line movement in this one. Toronto Raptors were a 7-point underdog, now a 5.5-point underdog on the road at Indiana. Talk to me about this one, BP. I said that I was going to start working on NBA, and I should have done it today. But as you can tell, I was doing yard work at my mom's house instead, so I got a nice glow. And
Oh,
it was
yes.
a beautiful day. It was way better than sitting inside handicapping NBA, right?
Mm-hmm. You look. I know, beautiful day in Ohio. Ha ha ha. We can all make our jokes. It was a lovely 60 degrees. I went for a walk myself today. But look, Toronto, Indiana. I don't know how it looks in Indianapolis. I do know that the Pacers. They've always put up a lot of points. They're 2-0 since the All-Star break. Nice win over Dallas last night. Here's the thing, though, Kelly. We look at these back-to-back situations, and Indiana's in one tonight. Oftentimes, I think the odds makers over-adjust on these things, and there's often value on the team that is playing without rest. But here it doesn't feel like there's been any adjustment. I would have made this number 6 if the Pacers had rest. So I actually think there's some value on Toronto here as a dog. I played Toronto their first game out of the break. Really nice win. They blew the doors off Brooklyn by 28. What do they do next time out? They go to Atlanta. They win by 2. Indiana, a team like Atlanta, doesn't play a lot of defense. Too many points, in my opinion, for Indiana to be laying in this situation without rest.
All right, right after that game tips off 7:30 Eastern, the Detroit Pistons take on the New York Knicks. New York opened 10.5 and now up to 11.5. Why? Because nobody wants to back the 8-48 Pistons. That's why. Why on earth would you want to do that? There was a period in time where this team was so fadeable, but since then, their last 18 games, they are 13-5 against the spread. BP, this one looks a little gross, regardless of who you want to take. But I'd give a slight lean here to the Pistons because New York, this is a big number for them to cover. And this is just not a team that likes to cover spreads as of late. They're not playing hard, I think, down the stretch. Maybe that was prior to the All-Star break.
Yeah. I mean, there's injuries with the Knicks. Look, you mentioned why would anyone want to play Detroit here, Kelly? Well, the Knicks are 1-7 against the number their last 8 games, and it's a big number. I don't really like laying double digits in the NBA, but I think the best way to attack this game would be to play the under, actually. I say that, so I lost with the Knicks as a 6-point home dog. I actually got them plus 6.5 Saturday against Boston. Why did the Knicks fail to cover that game? Well, Boston shot 70% through the first 3 quarters. You're not going to be very successful when the other team's shooting 70%. But here's the thing. That game still stayed under the total, Kelly. Even with Boston shooting 70% for 3 quarters. I'll tell you what the Detroit Pistons aren't going to do, and that shoots 70% through 3 quarters. The Pistons have gone under in 5 straight as well. I would look under 223.5 if you want to play this game.
Yeah, there's still a couple of those available, but not for long. We're seeing that one continue to tick down on the Wagertalk odds screen. So make sure you guys get the best of the number there. The chat box has been going crazy about this game, but I had to wait because I had to go in rotational order. There's some order to these things, guys. The Brooklyn Nets are a 2-point favorite, down from 2.5 at the Memphis Grizz. Total 214.5. That one's moved down about 2 points as well. You mentioned injury concerns. Ben Simmons, questionable. Do we think he's going to go for the Nets tonight?
Well, look, things are technically getting better for Brooklyn, Kelly. If you look at if you go back to the last game before the break, when they lost by 50 at Boston, because they've only lost by 28 at Toronto and then by 15 at Minnesota. Look, I know that the Grizzlies, their injury report looks like a shopping list every game, but they've been more competitive than you'd think. And I can't lay points on the road with this Brooklyn Nets team in it's their fourth straight road game overall, third straight road game since the break. Apparently it wasn't Jacques Vaughn's fault. This team, I think, just kind of stinks. And it would be Memphis or pass.
I'd like to blame Jacques Vaughn, one of my least favorite basketball players of all time. He's still on my shit list. I want you to know that.
I can imagine. I can imagine. He played for the wrong Kansas team. Yes.
God, he was an asshole. And you know who else I still have a beef with?
He didn't do anything personally to you, I hope.
No, I was a child.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Doesn't matter. You're missing the point. Okay. You're missing the point.
Yes.
There are just names from my childhood that stick out to me sports-wise, and it's Jacques Vaughn. It is Chauncey Billups. There's like probably 3 or 4 more, and then there's some from my gambling career, but we won't. I digress. Frank Kaminsky can't make his free throws down. Anyway, I yelled that.
Oh yeah, I didn't like Frank Kaminsky either. Yeah,
drunk at the Cosmo one night. Saw him walking. I'm sitting there playing blackjack. He's walking through the thing, and I'm like, "Make your fucking free throws!" Yeah, and he did not turn around. And my buddy was like, "You're an insane person." That was like 4 years ago. Last but not least, the Miami Heat. They were 2.5-point underdogs. Now 7.5. Who the hell is out for the Heat? At the Sacramento Kings. Let's scroll down and look at the injury report.
It is
Jimmy Butler is suspended.
Look, here's the deal with this game. Again, I mentioned it with Miami, North Carolina. I know they're words that people don't want to hear when they aren't watching a show about gambling, but this is a game that I would want to pass on because these are two teams, Kelly, that I have circled on my fade list. Miami, look, they've covered 6 in a row. God, the Heat always seem to rise up when you least expect. You talk about a team that was pissing you off. The Heat, their run to the NBA Finals last year is one of the most inexplicable things in recent years. That team was not good. The fact that they made it as far as they did was just, I was scratching my head for 2 months there. But Sacramento, Kelly, I don't want to play this team, especially in this price range at all. Second night of a back-to-back as well. They're off a big win against the Clippers last night. That surprised me. But Sacramento, who's 5th in the West, this is a team, whether you look at point differential or net efficiency, they're like 9th best in the West. If you're looking at these two teams, guys, I would look, and this is going to be a stinky one, but I would look to fade Miami tomorrow night in Portland. Miami's going to be laying points because Portland is very bad, but I actually think there will be some value with the Blazers catching an unrested Heat team. That is, I guess, a little look ahead till tomorrow.
All right, we have a couple prop questions because I asked if anybody had any in the chat. Do you like Halliburton to go over on his assists tonight? Young Money Oaks wants to know.
Well, look, here's the thing with Indiana. They're not a team that I would want to ever bet player props under because what do we know about the Indiana Pacers? Okay, they play fast and they play no defense. That's conducive to guys filling out the stat sheet. So, is it something I'm playing? No, I'm not. But look, I think if you've got a read on that, then sure, I guess I would go over. I wouldn't be looking to bet under.
BP, that's really interesting that you say that, though, because here's my thing that I've learned from player props, whether it be from Andy Lang or Ariel Epstein, back when I was doing some of the stuff with the better guys, is typically, you're right. The books know you're going to bet the over. And if everybody knows the Pacers team, is one of those faster paced teams, they are pushing it to the limit. They aren't playing very much defense. Is that not built into the line? Sorry, I'm trying to think of how to word it correctly from a props perspective because I'm not that well versed.
No, baked into the line. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. But let me look up the number here. So I didn't have the number.
You look up the number.
That's one thing I didn't have.
Okay.
All right, but
I kind of threw this one on you because I offered the chat to give me some props because I knew you do some stuff with the NBA. Currently, right now, as it stands on the Wagertalk odds screen, Indiana is a 5.5-point favorite. Nobody's out that injury-wise that I think would contribute to Halliburton having more or less, right? Changing roles there. So something to consider as well for some of these guys that are more, I would say, would you say that Tyrese Halliburton is like a top tier? I wouldn't say he's top tier, right? I think you pay a premium for the names at times as well. How about that?
Well, look, here's the deal with Tyrese Halliburton, okay? Last 5 games, all right? Now, obviously, we're going back before the break. 10 assists, 13 assists, 6 assists, 12 assists, 12 assists. His last 5 games. So, I mean, and let's look up where this is here. Let me just take a look at this. And Halliburton is 11.5. So, yeah, I mean, wow, that is a high number, to be honest with you. So, look, obviously.
That's kind of what I'm wondering is that I mean, at what point is this baked in? That doesn't mean it's not going to go over. I mean, we've seen tons of these player props just go on these guys just go on an absolute tear, and it's going to happen. Like Patrick Mahomes passing yards, right? Like it was great unders for like the second half of the season. I really enjoyed it. And then just took a little bit in overtime in the Super Bowl, and it just got completely obliterated. Yeah. I mean, but the bookmakers know that certain guys, you're going to bet the over. It's just they're going to get one-way action here.
And it's a good number considering that he averages 11.7 per game, which is first in the league. So it's just a good number. I mean, obviously, I'm not betting it myself, like I said. So I don't know. Maybe stay away from that unless if you're really confident. I don't know what prompted the question. If you really like it, go for it. But I'm not on it.
All right. No player props for Brian and I. I am going to start working on NBA, I promise. I am not going to be here tomorrow. Mark Zeno is going to fill in for me. But shout out to Brian Power for hanging out with me the last half hour here on this beautiful Monday. Make sure you guys head over to wt.buzz/BP to get all of his premium plays up on wagertalk.com. Mark Zeno tomorrow with, I believe, Carmine Bianco. They're going to talk some NBA and some NHL, and I will always make sure to drop my college basketball plays as well. Wednesday, I think it's going to be Andrew McGinnis and I, and then Thursday back with the Hustle guys, Chris Thurston and Adam Trigger to break down the college basketball slate. So it is going to be a fun-filled week here on the Wager Talk Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and I don't know what other channels we're on right now. Shout out to our production crew for helping us out, going live. Shout out to you guys for jumping in and interacting with us. Have a great night.